Welcome to the 75th episode of the New Ventures podcast. I'm your host, Sanjoy Sanyal, the founder of Regain Paradise, a boutique climate finance firm and a visiting fellow at the Cambridge Judge Business School. I'm hosting these series of conversations to understand the links between climate change and food security. We have two guests today, Helen Yap, Operations Director of Futurepump, joining us from the UK, and Stephan Wu, the Group Irrigation Manager, Davis and Shirtliff, joining us from Nairobi, Kenya. Welcome, Helen. Welcome, Stephan.
Thank you, Sanjoy.
Thank you, Sanjoy.
Helen, let's start with you. Do you want to introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you, Sanjoy. I am Helen Yap. So my background is in environmental science. So I started off with monitoring and evaluations, then moved through marketing and communications, and then have grown into the operations director role now at Futurepump. I originally started at Futurepump as an intern back in 2014. And then I rejoined after a period of time away in 2016, and I've been part of the company since then. As the operations director, I head up the marketing team as well as a lot of project management across the business. It's a fantastic role to have because it's so varied and diverse in what I do every day. No 2 days are the same. That's a little bit of a background to me.
Congratulations, Helen. And Stephan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Sanjoy. My name is Stephan Wu. I'm the Group Irrigation Manager at Davis and Shirtliff. I have been in the irrigation industry for 23 years now, but I specifically have been at Davis and Shirtliff for 7 years. I joined Davis and Shirtliff in 2017 to start the irrigation segment. So we, at Davis and Shirtliff, we have presence in 11 countries in Africa. And so the irrigation component in every country, at every branch is actually my responsibility. I have background in irrigation engineering, that's agricultural engineering, specialized in irrigation. And it's been a very exciting journey for me, greening the earth, enhancing livelihoods and improving lives through providing water and energy across Africa.
And an extremely important role at that. Helen, Toby, your founder, has been on our podcast, one of our very early guests during the pandemic. That was some time back. So please tell us a little bit about your company.
Yes, certainly. Futurepump is a manufacturer of solar-powered water pumps for small-scale farmers across Africa, Asia, or really anywhere that the sun shines and people need to irrigate. So I thought I would explain a little bit of our origin, as I think it sums up quite well our culture of combining different areas of expertise across the business. And also it's quite a good story to tell. So our pumps were invented by a Dutch engineer, Gert-Jan Boom, who has invented pumps for decades. He did hand pumps, and then solar steam pumps, and then our solar PV pumps that we sell today. It was during the solar steam pump era of his inventions that he put the video onto YouTube. And our managing director, Toby, who we just spoke about briefly, saw that YouTube video and was at a point in time where he was looking for his next opportunity after previously doing other renewable energy businesses. So he reached out. It was one of those serendipitous moments, really, where Gert-Jan and Practica Foundation, who he works for, were not wanting to commercialize product or not in the right place to do that. Toby was looking for this opportunity. So we brought together those areas of expertise and Futurepump was formed. So we have our headquarters in the UK, and we now have a factory based in India, which again is where we've brought together expertise in manufacturing, process efficiency and team building to create a fantastic team over there. And that's where most of our staff are based.
Very nice, Helen. And Stephan, if Futurepump is a small multinational organization, like the way Helen describes it, you are a completely different type of organization.
That's right, Sanjay. Yes, we are a different outfit dealing in very diverse products. Of course, Futurepump being one of our products in solar pumping solutions. Davis and Shirtliff is quite an old company. In fact, we just celebrated 78th anniversary earlier this month of May. Started in 1946 by Eddie Davis and Dick Shirtliff. And now we are talking about the third generation since the founder running the company. Of course, we deal in very diverse products. Like I said, we've got water pumps of all types, including engine pumps, electric pumps, solar pumps. Then we've got boreholes, we've got swimming pool equipment, we've got water treatment, chemicals, solar equipment, general machinery, and irrigation, which I had. Yeah, so that's basically, in a nutshell, what Davis and Shirtliff deals in.
I always like stories. And is there some company story around Mr. Davis and Mr. Shirtliff that you want to share?
Yeah, apparently sometime in the 70s, Dick Shirtliff decided to exit. And so Eddie Davis bought over the shareholding by his partner and he owned the company. So Dick Shirtliff relocated to the UK and Eddie Davis became the sole owner. And it's a family company. It's a family business. It's been running in the company. Our current chairman, Mr. Alec Davis, is actually the second owner after the founder. And now the sons are actively involved in the running of the company. Our chairman is now retired, but also quite actively involved in the decision-making at the top.
Thank you, Stephan. Helen, we are entering into the main part of the podcast, and to do that, may I request you to tell us a little bit about the solar pump product of yours?
Yes, so at Futurepump, we manufacture a surface water pump for up to 2 acres. So we have a few in our range, but it's small scale, so 1 to 2 acres. And we pride ourselves on our unique selling point being our warranty and support that comes with our pumps. So the specifications of our pumps being for small scale farmers, really we could have gone super cheap and unreliable, but we've decided to really focus in on support and warranty. And our warranty on our pumps is 10 years, which is a market leading warranty. So our pumps being surface water pumps, you can lift water up from 7 meters depth, and we have options for total heads of 15 meters or a high head version that can push water up to 45 meters. So that gives a little bit of an idea of where you could be using our pumps, from lakes, rivers, to storage tanks, and that's what most of our customers do, really.
Helen, for city slickers like us, explain what a head of a pump is.
Yes, of course. So the head of a pump is the combination of the height that water can be lifted, but also it's an explanation of pressure. So it also includes the pressure that is added by length of hose pipes, whether you've added sprinklers, things that mean the pump has to do work. So work being use energy to move water. So when I say total head of 15 meters, that will be a combination of the water being sucked up from the well, the height of water the height to a tank, for example, but also any additional pressures in the system that make the pump have to work to move water.
Perfect. Stephan and Helen, what I find fascinating is here is a small company out of Norwich in the UK with a manufacturing base in India and recently invented pump, if you may, partner with one of the largest and oldest companies of Africa. And what I'm going to do is to understand a little bit about how this partnership came about and how this partnership succeeded. And Stephan, I'm going to begin by asking you, how ever did you trust Helen and her company?
Thanks, Sanjoy. Well, like I said, I joined Davis and Shirtliff just 7 years ago, and I actually found the Futurepump in progress and well adopted at Davis and Shirtliff. But I must say it is a great product, a perfect fit for small-scale farming applications, surface pumping, and shallow pumping generally. When I first used the Futurepump or, had it installed and tested it, I just fell in love with the product because, for one, it's sustainable solar-powered energy pumping. I must say it is a great product, especially for, like Helen said, for small-scale applications, 1 acre, 2 acres, half an acre, great for low-pressure pumping applications. And most of the farmers that use it actually just use it to fill their reservoirs, maybe an elevated tank. I knew about Futurepump quite a while back, even before I joined Davis and Shirtliff, and I knew about their operations, their products. And over the time, the most striking and the key thing that I've really enjoyed about working with the Futurepump products is the support that they extend on their products and the warranty. And these are very robust pumps. We rarely get cases of breakdowns. And even if there's a breakdown, we're able to service those products quite easily because they are very easy to assemble. Even a layman out there can be able to handle it on first interaction. They are really very simplified kind of products. That's basically the love story with the Futurepump, the great products that they provide to the market.
Really nice. Helen, were you there when Futurepump first made its pitch to Davis and Shirtliff?
Yes, so I was part of Futurepump, and I remember the excitement around when we finally actually got to speak to Davis and Shirtliff. The way that we work is with a manufacturer and we sell through distribution partners. So we're always looking for the ideal distributors for our products. And as a small company, as we've talked about, it wasn't super easy to get our pumps in with Davis and Shirtliff. It took quite a long time, probably a year's worth of trying to approach in many different ways. And then eventually our sales director did manage to make contact with Alec Davis on LinkedIn, I believe. And then we managed to get a meeting with Henry Davis. And it was another moment where Davis and Shirtliff were looking to enter the smallholder market, then smallholder irrigation. And that is what we were proposing and pitching. That meeting went very well. And the rest, as they say, is history. And it's fantastic hearing Stephen talking about the warranty support and how actually the pumps don't break down. It makes me feel really proud to hear that. Yeah, thank you for that, Stephen.
Well, part luck, because, Davis and Shirtliff is looking for this exact same product you had, but part, incredible marketing for LinkedIn. If LinkedIn executive was listening to this, they would promote our podcast all around. Helen and Stephen, I know that partnerships between large companies and small companies can fail for many number of reasons. That's what I've seen in the course of my career. I'm going to trot out a few and see how you managed those challenges. One reason these partnerships often fail is that the sales teams of large companies do not have the sufficient incentives to sell new products.
Okay, so I would like to say Futurepump has been very, very consistent in servicing orders and responding to even support issues. They've actually extended very exemplary service in support of their products. I think being a specialized company that only manufactures these pumps, they're able to meet the end of their bargain by timely supplies and all the support issues. We, on the other hand, like I said, we deal in very diverse product range. I want to say I actually grabbed this pump from the solar segment because I thought it's more of an irrigation product than a solar product. And so when we are not selling the solar pump, the Futurepump, we of course have other, solar pumps that we offer, lots of which are assembled here, put together here as solutions. Those are just generally electric pumps we can solarize. Futurepump is just one of the solutions that we prominently offer in the market. We've got a very wide range of pumps, other solar pumps, electric pumps, even engine pumps. And so it's just one of our products, and we're quite happy that we've maintained, and Futurepump has maintained that consistency.
Stephen, that's where the problem often arises, right? Because you are the group irrigation manager. You're selling through, I suspect, a sales organization, which in some ways you have to influence. And they have the ability to sell a bunch of electric pumps. This is a new product for them. They can sell electric pumps. They can sell large water pumping systems in which their incentives are larger. How did you go about influencing them to sell the specialized solar pump?
Right. Talking about sustainable pumping solutions and renewable energy, there has been a very robust campaign about solar pumping and adoption of renewable energy pumping solutions. And so this came in quite handy. Any solar pumping solution is very attractive because number one, we're talking about free energy from the sun. And you don't have to pay any bills. There's no electricity bills to pay. There's no fuel to pay for. And so solar becomes a very attractive solution and it's easy to sell. The only challenging bit here is the overall initial cost because solar pumps are generally slightly more expensive compared to other types of pumps. But I would say it is the most attractive pumping solution currently. And there has been very, very spirited campaigns for adoption of more and more solar pump solutions across Africa and actually in the whole world.
And Helen, do you want to add something here?
Yeah, I think it was very important to us as a manufacturer of a brand new innovative product to realize that we were going to be competing against other products, even within our distribution partner companies. I think I've seen quite a few innovators get very stuck in their product being the best and therefore everyone should believe that straight away. I think we're very aware that even though we know that the product is great, we had to sell that to the distributors as well as the end users to make that possible. And it's not something that we could just set up the partnership and therefore it will just sell. So we do a lot of work actually on our own marketing. We're very active online to direct end users to Davis and Shirtliff to purchase our pumps and also to always be available for any support cases or questions from the Davis and Shirtliff team. And we really try to be as responsive as possible there so that it can be one of the easier products to sell. And that's what our aim is anyway.
Easier product to sell. I think that's an important point. The other reason why these partnerships often fail is that the large company wants to scale up very rapidly. You know, Stephan, Davis and Shirtliff is already there in 11 countries. It's often very difficult for a small company to meet those demands. Did that happen at all?
Sanjay, our orders are very consistent. We actually issue orders. Of course, the shipping time between the order time and the consignment arrival takes weeks. I would say like 12 to 16 weeks or thereabout. And so I think Futurepump has all the time to prepare, to manufacture and put together everything and, just reconfirm before shipment. And the other reason why we feel comfortable dealing with Futurepump is, of course, we order in container loads. We don't just order a few pumps. We order a full container or several containers at once. So we always have stock. We keep about 4 to 6 months or stock holding for these pumps. So we do not exactly run into any shortages or stockouts. And we have a very active monitoring line, stock monitoring system where I'm able to tell we've got now 3 months of stock remaining and the shipment time is, say, slightly over 3 months. So we've got to place an order now before we run out. So it's been consistent, and I must say Futurepump is commendable in, delivery.
If I can add in here as well, I would say that working with a large company with these processes in place is less stressful for us as well from the manufacturing point of view. We always know when an order is going to come or we have an alert from the team with plenty of time. So it doesn't feel like there is so much pressure or rush to get the products manufactured and shipped. I think because we are able to be agile when those orders come in, but that is helped by the fact that we get such good communication from Davis and Shirtliff about stock levels, which means we've not had an issue there.
I think processes are very important. And I'm going to ask you another question in the processes. How did you set up between Futurepump and Davis and Shirtliff the communication processes between your two management teams?
I think from the very, very early days, our sales director, after he had that meeting with Henry Davis, was very much communicating with management. So I think that's just continued and it's a link that we always want to maintain. Whilst we're communicating on all the different areas, we always want to be making sure, checking in that everything's running smoothly and stock levels. So we always have touch points to talk with management, and always found everyone at Davis and Shirtliff to be very responsive. So it's actually been very easy to keep those communication lines open.
Stephan?
Yeah, thank you, Sanjay. I think the key thing here is maintaining an open line of communication. Like we always keep in constant communication. The team in the UK keeps us really, really updated on any product issues. They keep prompting and asking questions about the performance, stock levels, trainings also. We conduct joint trainings to Davis and Shirtliff sales teams. And so that kind of communication has really helped stitch things together and just put everything in the right perspective.
But in terms of processes, for example, the country manager or the sales manager in Tanzania wants 5 pumps and he hadn't got them. How do these escalations reach Futurepump?
So we've got all the stock holding, especially for most of the products here in Nairobi at the head office. And at our new facility in Tatu City, we've got a major warehouse, a mega warehouse at Tatu City, where we keep lots of stock holding. Any other subsidiary, any country, Uganda, Zambia, Tanzania, in need of these products can easily access them from our warehouse because we've got weekly deliveries to all these countries. So we've got a truck that goes to Tanzania every week. There's a truck that is going to Kampala in Uganda every week, and similarly all the other major countries. But even then, we are also expanding our warehousing facilities. We've just completed a mega one in Lusaka, Zambia. Tanzania is in progress, and Uganda is coming up as well, so that they can also maintain their warehousing and improve on their stock holding capacity in every country. So we're talking of regional hubs because from there, then they are able to service the neighboring countries easily and furnish them with new stocks from their warehouse.
Helen, before we go on to the next part of our podcast, which is the impact of the work that you do, obviously as a small company, you had to be careful about the use of capital and to make sure that the needs of Davis and Shirtliff were met. Is there any lesson from there that you want to share?
Yeah. I'd be lying if I said that working capital isn't a challenge, especially when orders are in container load sizes, because that's quite a lot of stock that had to be made before it's shipped. But the way that we've learned to manage that over the years is very much on our credit terms that we give, based on how much the credit terms that we give to our distributors based on that need for the working capital, the size of the order, the shipping times and all that. And we do have to get a lot of the capital up front to be able to fulfill orders. And that's something that we've learned to manage very tightly to be able to keep going and fulfill orders when they come in.
Yes, that is exactly what I was hoping to hear. We're going to move on to the next part of the podcast. What we are hearing from you, Helen and Stephan, is the element of trust in each other. And in the case of Futurepump, the ability to deliver a pump that does not break down in the remote parts of Africa. And in the case of you, Stephan, your belief this renewable energy product can really change lives, and which is what we're going to talk about in the next part of the podcast. So, Stephan, tell us a little bit about the impact you have created across Africa.
Thank you, Sanjoy. Of course, it's always been exciting selling pumps and witnessing growth and development and improvement of farms, greening the earth, like I called it initially. Every pumping application has got its own benefits, whether it's for farming activities or just for water transfer. And so I would say it's a very exciting experience just watching crops grow, farmers earn an income from this pump. And it has actually revolutionized farming in Africa, so to speak, because it is affordable in many financial models. And we are able to sell and improve the small-scale farmers' incomes greatly in every part of Africa. It's a revolutionary kind of a product.
And that's great to hear, of course. Obviously, these pumps are bought by small farmers, right? Tell us, how do they buy it? Do they buy it straight cash? Do they take a loan? And in which countries have you sold the most number of pumps?
Yeah, lots of farmers that buy this product, the Futurepump. We've got two models, actually, the SE1 and the SF2. But most of farmers buy cash, but we also have the pay-go system where the farmers can actually access it through a slow payment model. We've got non-governmental organizations that also promote solar pumping in Africa, and they buy quite a lot of these pumps and just issue them to farmers. We also have other smaller enterprise societies that promote their farmers by buying on behalf of the farmers and lending them out or leasing them out. And we also have the banks that support these products, specifically talking about two banks here. We've got the Equity Bank and the Standard Chartered Bank. They finance, acquisition of these products, and it becomes quite easy. for farmers to access these products through a financing model. If they are not able to, you buy it on cash basis.
You run the operations in 11 countries. In which country are you selling? I mean, would it be safe to say that Kenya is where you're selling the most number of pumps?
That's right. Kenya is the leading consumer of solar pumps, these, Futurepump solar pumps. And of course, other countries have taken up the queue, and the market is growing across Africa. I would say Zambia is another big consumer. South Sudan is taking up lots of this, and Uganda as well, and Tanzania. So the market is actually rapidly growing, and we can see consumption of solar pumping generally, increasing in Africa across the whole continent.
I was in Zambia recently, and obviously climate change is affecting the whole of Africa, but Zambia is going through a significant drought. I mean, this whole of Southern Africa is going through a significant drought. Stephen, from your perspective, and Helen, I'll be interested in yours as well, how is climate change affecting farmers in Africa?
Sanjoy, so climate change has a real negative impact on farming communities. I would say, besides this, interrupting cropping patterns because of heavy rainfalls and flooding and all that, there is also a disruption of the market, because in any farming venture, there is the market element where you actually produce to supply a market. And that has to be timed because of the pricing to fluctuations. So when the cropping patterns are interrupted, the market patterns are also disrupted. And we are here also talking about damage of farms and soil erosion. We've just recently witnessed very heavy flooding across, the East African region due to very, very heavy rains. Again, we have all sorts of soil and waterborne diseases with this flooding and heavy rains, unexpected rainfalls. So all this is climate change, and it's bringing about a lot of disruption in farming communities generally, disrupting the whole food supply chain.
Helen, your product can help with this, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, so really the benefit that we see our customers saying is that they can take some sort of control back over irrigation and therefore planting and when they're going to be able to harvest. So as Stephen was saying, there used to be really clear rainy season, dry season, and people would know exactly when to plant and when it was going to rain and then when you could harvest. But that has all over the world, but especially Africa, has completely been thrown up in the air in the last decade or so. Especially our pumps, basically, if the rain doesn't come on time and the seeds are in the ground, they can use the sunshine to get that water to the crops when they need it the most. And that just really means that the seeds aren't wasted. Any fertilizer that's been put on the soil isn't wasted. It just brings back that bit of control where it feels kind of very uncontrollable. The climate is in a bit of chaos, and our products enable people to be able to grow through those dry seasons.
And unlike many parts of Asia where I come from, Africa actually is not well irrigated. There are no large-scale irrigation projects which irrigate a lot of the farming land in Africa. And that is an important point, which is why these small-scale solutions are really important. Helen, it is obviously useful to hear that your product can help farmers take back control. But what I still worry is that is large-scale impact possible only with irrigation? Because you need seeds, you need market linkages. Is there that whole system or the whole ecosystem coming together?
Yeah, the problems cannot be solved only by irrigation. I think that's very true. But there are loads of innovators coming through that are looking at all these different areas, especially cold storage and being able to get harvests to market. Because if you've irrigated your crop, managed to harvest it, and then it spoils at that point, then all that previous work has been lost. At Futurepump, we very much focus on irrigation. That's where we feel like we have our expertise and knowledge. So we don't get involved too much in the other parts of the chain, but it is something that is essential. So what our aim is to do the best we can do with irrigation, and then that will form part part of the puzzle.
Stephen, any reaction?
Of course, for any country to be food secure, especially within the tropics where we do not have, specifically in Eastern Africa and the wider Africa, where we do not have sufficient rainfalls and where we heavily rely on irrigated agriculture, this requires a multi-sectoral kind of an approach with so many players coming into the picture. Irrigation is just a small part of it. We need lots of other infrastructure for this to be done effectively. And we've seen government interventions trying to promote these activities, providing the necessary infrastructure for irrigation activities to thrive, providing the water, providing, the roads for market access. And so it's a multi-sectoral kind of an approach where so many players, both private and public and governments, have to come together and just everyone play their role and provide the service for this to happen. Of course, adoption of large-scale commercial irrigation in Africa has been very, very slow. We have about 85% of the food consumed in Africa produced by the small-scale farms. So more and more, as we look into promoting renewable energy pumping solutions, I think we need to focus even more on large-scale irrigation solutions to be able to get anywhere near food security across, in Africa, most African countries.
This is an important point. You mean large-scale irrigation systems as opposed to these, millions of small solar pumps?
Yeah, so obviously large-scale systems would require much larger solutions. As I said, besides empowering the small-scale farmer to produce more through irrigation, we need to also shift our focus onto promoting large-scale irrigation systems.
So when you say large-scale irrigation systems, as an Asian, the first thing that comes to my mind is large river dams and things like that. Is that what you have in mind?
Absolutely, yeah. Providing the water infrastructure, because water becomes a very expensive venture when it comes to small scale. You can't have the sufficient infrastructure to be able to cover, as an individual, to cover a large scale, because it's one of the most expensive investments, water infrastructure. And so that's why governments actually come in to provide that. Most of the governments in more developed countries where agriculture and irrigation is more advanced, it is the prerogative. It's actually the government that makes sure the water is available. If you leave that to a small-scale farmer, they will never develop enough storage or enough infrastructure to even cover as little as 5 acres, because water infrastructure is expensive.
Well, that is actually a very sobering thought and something that I didn't quite expect. We've come to the end of the podcast, and Helen and Stephen, both of you have worked with people, farmers who own 1 acre, 2 acres of land. Tell us a story of a life you changed.
If I can plug Futurepump YouTube channel a little bit here, we've got lots of videos directly from farmers themselves, and I think farmers tell their stories the best, better than I ever could. If anyone does want to check those videos out, our Futurepump YouTube channel, that would be perfect. But I do remember the first time I visited farms in Kenya and really saw the impact that we were having in like a reality. So there was a farm that we went to where they had completely previously, there was a drought and then a flood, and this particular farm had really been struggling with managing that, because when do you plant seeds, and if you plant them in the drought, then there was no water for them to grow. Then when they finally did start to grow, a flood came and washed the plants all away, which was such a challenge for them to handle. But they had been able to invest in one of our pumps, and I was being explained to that the year after having that pump, they were able to irrigate in more of that drought season, which meant that the plants were in earlier, which when the rains did come, meant the plants were more robust and able to withstand more of that heavy rain. And so really a whole harvest, a whole cropping season had been saved by that ability to irrigate earlier in that season and take that risk in planting the seeds. But the risk was less because of the ability they knew that they could get water to the crops. So I think just seeing that the whole livelihood of that field, that farm, being able to be transformed by that control, having that control over when water could be applied, was really eye-opening to me to see.
And Stephen, do you have a story you want to tell?
Yes, definitely. Of course, I interact and visit a lot of farmers. I've visited thousands of farms throughout my career as an irrigation person. I have watched very, very many farmers getting transformed from brown dry earth to some green patch in the middle of nowhere. But specifically, just recently, I think I was really fascinated visiting this farmer in the lower eastern part of Kenya in an area called Mtitwandei. It's somewhere between Nairobi and Mombasa midway. And he's got actually 2 future pumps that he uses to irrigate his farm. This gentleman previously had a small engine pump that kept breaking down and eventually decided, I'm changing this to solar pumping. So he came and bought the first future pump from us. And, of course, we took him through. When he installed it, he was able to irrigate about an acre and growing cabbages, unimaginable cabbages in such a dry part of the country. It was unheard of before he ventured into cabbage and other vegetable farming. A few months later, I visited him and it's fascinating. He's bought the second pump. He's on 2.5 acres now, cabbages mostly and chili and a few other vegetables. And he's a sole supplier of vegetables in the local market. A small town called Mtitwandei. And I can see a complete transformation, a change of livelihood. The gentleman is styled up from the old wizened farmer that used to carry heavy equipment and struggle to irrigate even an acre, having to cope with constant breakdowns and heavy costs with other pumping solutions involving fuels. The future pump has really transformed his life. And this is just one case among thousands that I have witnessed, especially with the pumping solutions using future pumps and other solar pumping solutions that we provide.
It's a wonderful story, Stephan. The area between Mombasa and Nairobi is actually a semi-arid area in Kenya. And when you say the farmer was using an engine pump, you mean he was using a petrol pump, right?
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Helen and Stephan. Do you have any questions for me before we end the podcast?
Yeah, I was thinking, we were talking about earlier a bit about pay-as-you-go financing for pumps versus cash. I know, Sanjoy, that you are involved in climate finance and the kind of finance side. I wonder what your opinion is on pay-as-you-go financing for productive use.
Well, I think pay-as-you-go as a technology is a very useful financing tool. The issue in East Africa and in large parts of Africa is that the banks don't finance companies in Africa who provide these pumps on pay-as-you-go basis. So, for example, I'm just visualizing, there could be a joint venture between Davis and Shirtliff and Futurepump sometime in the future, and that company takes loans from an equity bank and then provides the pumps on a pay-as-you-go basis. That would be very useful because it is not there. Pay-as-you-go companies, which can essentially end up doing small solar home systems as opposed to productive load, and then they have to raise money from overseas markets, which exposes them to foreign currency risk. In sum, I really hope banks wake up to the possibility of using pay-as-you-go to provide loans to local African companies.
That's really interesting. Thank you.
And if people have to get in touch with you, how should they?
Yeah, so if anyone wants to reach out to me specifically, you can email me at helen.yap@futurepump.com or contact Futurepump more generally on any of our social media channels or our live web chats. There will always be someone there to respond.
Stephan?
Great. Thank you, Sanjoy. I'm reachable on email. I'm stephan.wambua@dayliff.com, or you could visit our website and just check out any of the branch contacts because it's available. They are available on our websites.
With that, thank you very much, Stephan and Helen. This was wonderful speaking to you.
Thank you very much for inviting us on.
Thank you, Sanjoy. It's been great talking to you.